Chapter 6.6 is on currency exchange. So anytime you go traveling, most countries have different units of money, and so you have to think about the exchange rate, or it certainly helps when you're purchasing things so that you kind of have an idea of how much you're spending. Before you go, you usually exchange some Canadian dollars for the money that you're going to be spending in whatever country you're going to. So you do that at a bank or at a currency exchange store like Califorex or something like that. The exchange rates change on a daily basis. If you listen to the news, usually they state during a newscast in the business portion exchange rates for the US dollar, sometimes the yen, sometimes the euro or the British pound, that kind of thing. So some of the more common exchanges. And so they change every day. So what we'll be using will be the exchange rates that are listed in the workbook, but they aren't what today's exchange rates are. And you'll specifically notice a difference with the US dollar. If you've been recently, this rate is not what it is right now. In any case, most of the time you're going to be multiplying. The odd time you'll be dividing if you're not given an exchange rate in the correct order. So that's all that these are. So you can use a calculator for these. So I'm going to try these. 1.987 times 20. So that would be basically, given $20 Canadian, some exchange rate, it would be 39.74. Whether it's dollars as well, kind of depends on what you're going to. So this is just a calculation. So we'll keep it in dollars, but we'll do some similar calculations for exchanges. So these are all in dollars for now because they're just practicing multiplying, which, as I said, you're allowed to use a calculator, so they're really not anything too difficult. Okay. And 2,000 times 0.9671. Oops. 1934.2. Because it's in dollars, we'll put 0 after for the cents. And 12.994, which to the nearest cent is $12.99. Okay, so let's get to some actual calculations. Okay, so Trevor will be traveling to the World Skills Competition in London, England. He needs to convert his Canadian dollars to British pounds. To find the latest rate of exchange, Trevor checks an online currency converter. So you can do that yourself if you're ever interested online, or banks will list them as well. So for every Canadian dollar, Trevor would receive 0.607 British pounds. How many British pounds will we get for 500 Canadian dollars? So if we have the Canadian, we can multiply through by the exchange rate. Basically, the amount of pounds he would get for a Canadian dollar. All right, so in this case, they've given us the exchange rate. 1 Canadian is equal to 0.607 British pounds. So he has 500 Canadian, and so we multiply through. And you can kind of see in terms of the units, British pounds per Canadian dollar, and we're multiplying by Canadian dollars. So those units divide out, and we're left with the British pounds. So we'll get our calculator out here. And 500 times 0.607. Okay, so $303. 303 British pounds, 0.5. I actually don't know how many decimal places. I think they just go to one decimal place, but I could be wrong. In any case, we'll just leave it. I know they go to at least one decimal place. If Trevor wants to take 500 British pounds, how much will that cost in Canadian dollars? So remember that what we did up here was we took the Canadian dollars, we multiplied by the exchange rate to get the British pounds. Now we know that he wants to have 500 British pounds, so we need to work backwards. So it's kind of like 0.607x, where x is the Canadian dollars, equals 500. It's just like an equation you've solved for many years now. So you end up dividing 500 by 0.607, and that's what that is here. So sometimes you divide if you're not given the exchange rate for the unit that you're starting with. So here we were starting with Canadian dollars, and we had the exchange rate for 1 Canadian. So we just multiplied. Here we are given British pounds, but we don't have this exchange rate for 1 British pound. Now you could get it by going 1 divided by this, but it's just a little bit faster to divide. Okay, so think about it as an equation. And then we will go 500 divided by 0.607 is 823. Now we know these are Canadian dollars, so we'll go to 2 decimal places. Okay, so, and you can see here that when you're dividing, the pounds divide out, and dividing by this in the denominator brings it up to the numerator. Okay, also try to think logically. Does it make sense? If 1 Canadian dollar is worth less than 1 in British pounds, then obviously you're going to need more than 500 Canadian dollars to get 500 British pounds, right? Because this is bigger than this. So try to think a little bit logically. Currency exchange rate. They change every day. Here's an example. So how to use that is over on the left. So to use the currency chart, find the column for the currency you're starting with, then go down that column to find the exchange rate for the currency you want to convert to. So if you want to go from 1 Canadian dollar to US dollars, then that's your exchange rate here. Okay, find the column, so look for the column, go down. So that here says that 1 Canadian dollar, so $1 Canadian equals, this would be US dollar 0.967. Okay, if you go across the other way, this is saying 1 Canadian, yeah, no, that's the best way to do it actually. Yeah, because you're going down here. So you always want to start from the column. So this number here would be 1 US dollar. So I'll go US dollar would equal I'm going to do that again, Canadian dollar 1.035. And you can see if you divided 1 by 0.967, 1 divided by 0.967, you'll get very close to this, right? The reason why it's not exactly the same is because of the number of decimal places. So really this should have been more, because these are the more exact. This was rounded to 0.967. Really there were more decimal places, okay? All right, so we're going to use this. Look to the next page. It says Danielle wants to travel to buy textiles. She has $2,000 Canadian. What is the amount worth in Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, and euros? So 3 different calculations. So we want to look for what is $2,000 worth in Chinese yuan to first. So we need to look for what 1 Canadian dollar is. That's the best way to do it, because then we just have to multiply. So go back to your chart. We want to look in the Canadian dollar, and we want to look for Chinese yuan here. So 6.602. So 6.602. So that's what we're going to multiply, because if we know what that 1 Canadian dollar is worth this, and we have 2,000 of them, then that's just a multiplication question. So 2,000 times 6.602. Oh, yeah, something happened there. Yeah, I'm just going to do this again. 2,000 times 6.60, oops, that's why, 02. There we go. And that's 13,204. So you seem rich, because 13,000 is a lot, but that's equivalent to 2,000 Canadian, so it's not as much as you think. Then Japanese yen. Go back, first column, down to Japanese yen, 90.198. So here we want to multiply by 90.198. That's the exchange rate. So now 2,000 times 90.198. This will be really big. 180,396 Japanese yen. Okay, notice the symbol is similar. This doesn't have, it just is that symbol, Y symbol, but this has JP for Japanese yen. What is 2,000 worth in euros? So again, look in your chart. Euros is here, 0.676. And we want to multiply those together. 123 times 0.676. And 1,352 euros. Okay, so pretty straightforward on that one. Next one, Danielle has 420 euros left after traveling to Europe and wants to go to Mexico. What are the euros worth in Mexican pesos? So you don't want to exchange it back to Canadian and then pesos. You can just do the straight calculation. So we're starting with euros. So we want to find the exchange, oops, that's a cent symbol, exchange rate for 1 euro. I'm not good at drawing that. There we go. Something like that. 1 euro equals how many pesos? And then we can just multiply. So they've got a space for it here. Let's take a look. So we want to start with euros. So that's this column, and look for Mexican pesos. So it would be 18.265. Okay, and that's what we're going to multiply by. So 420 times 18.265 is 7,671.3. We'll go to 1 decimal place, leave it like that. Okay, and then just for the practice here, the first one, determine the equivalent for each exchange. So basically this is copying this out from the first page. So if we want to start in Canadian dollars and convert to US, we're going to use this Canadian dollars to US 0.967. Sadly, that is not what it really is right now and hasn't been for a long time. Okay, and then it says amount. That's really how many dollars you would get, or units of the new currency you would get. So 1 Canadian dollar would be here, would be basically 97 cents, okay, US. So that's all that it's saying. So 1 euro, we just looked that up actually, or no, maybe we didn't. So 1 euro to Canadian is 1.482. Oops, sorry. 1.482. So 1.482. So when you multiply those together, you're getting Canadian. So that'll be Canadian dollar, and that's 2 decimal places. Okay, so really these are, you can even show them the same, because for British pounds, all of these, I'm not sure how many decimal places they go to. So it's just US and Canadian that we end up for sure going to 2 decimal places. So that's just a hint on question 1. So that's the end of 6.6.